everyone, and welcome to our Elevate Your Career event. My name is Sajida Lutz, and I've been at Amazon for around 10.5 years now, leading teams, talent acquisition teams on devices and Alexa, software services, and then before this role, where I have been in operations, I was leading what we call the People Operations and Technology Team, PMO, for EU operations. PMO stands for Project Management Office, for those of you that want to know a little bit more about the acronym. So thank you to our viewers for joining us for this live streaming event coming from you from Luxembourg. I would love to say that it's coming from sunny Luxembourg, but unfortunately it's been raining for the last 3 weeks. So our goal for this event is to help you, our viewers, understand more about our tech teams in operations and go deeper into helping you understand the problems we are solving for our customers and give you the opportunity to learn a bit more about life at Amazon in Luxembourg. So what is Amazon Operations? Amazon Operations is at the heart of Amazon's mission to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. It's a little bit more than packing and delivering boxes. It's making a global impact for customers around the world. Amazon Operations never sleeps. We're leading around-the-clock efforts to ensure we keep our delivery promise to our customers. And we have a wide range of roles that may surprise you, from engineers, robotics teams, AI teams. We also have teams that are leading our associates in our, what we call our fulfillment centers, who work really hard to deliver packages to you. Now, we have a very packed agenda for you today. We are going to be having various technical leaders, which our hosts and speakers, which you can see on the slide. So there'll be Rachel Cook coming up, who's our Global RME Director. There'll be Georgios, who's our Director of Science and Technology. We have Gilda, who's our Business Intelligence Manager. We worked also very closely together for the Alexa team. And we have Cosmin, who's our BI and Analytics Manager, and Smith, who's our Senior Data Engineering Lead. And of course, you know about me because I talked about me just previously. So the agenda today, as I mentioned, Rachel Cook will be giving you insights into operations, technology, innovation. We'll then have a roundtable, a day in the life of what it's like to work here. It will be with Gilda, Smith, and Cosmin. We'll have an immersive look into Amazonians' daily work and journey. You, as our audience, have submitted questions, so we're going to be answering those as well. We will also have a tech talk with Georgios Pashos, and he'll be giving us insight into operations, technology, innovation. Then our recruiting team will talk to you a little bit more about working in Luxembourg and talk to you a little bit more about recruitment process, and then we will close out with some closing statements. So that's a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So I'd like to hand over to our Global RME Director. RME stands for Reliability, Maintenance and Engineering, and Rachel Cook will be taking over. So thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to start by playing a short video about reliability, maintenance, engineering. So I hope that video made you excited and curious as to what RME, or Reliability and Maintenance Engineering, is all about. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that later in this presentation. But first, I want to talk about careers and how do you end up being a global director of engineering at Amazon, or how you end up wherever you end up. So this is me in a nutshell. I have a PhD in chemical engineering, double masters. I'm a chartered engineer, fellow of the Institute of Chemical Engineers, and in my life I've worked for 3 different companies, and I've been with Amazon till 2017, and I'm also a non-executive director of the Cheltenham Science Centre. And this is a summary of my career, and it all looks quite nice and logical and linear. 10 years at one company, 4 years at the next, and now 7 at Amazon. And it could almost look like it's planned, and this is where I started to get to. But actually, careers look more like this. I always think of a career as a series of choices. So each time you might make a choice. Do I apply for this job? Do I accept this job? Those are kind of clear career choices. But do I move to this location? Do I take on this project? Do I attend this event? All of these things are choices you're making that ultimately will lead to your career. And you can go through many, many different paths. And you can see you get through so many paths to get to where you are now. I encourage you just to reflect on all the things that you've decided and chosen to do that are making you listen to this talk right now. Because for sure you've chosen to study some specific topics. You may have chosen to live in a particular country or to stay where you are. You may have chosen to meet somebody who suggested that you join today. And all of those decisions get you where you are now. And then you've got this whole host of choices in front of you. And some of these choices are going to be harder than others. I always say that the hardest choices in a career are when both options are pretty good. So you're choosing between something good and something also good. And those are the really hard choices. Because if your choice is between something not good and the status quo, then hopefully the status quo is something that you will choose, or you will be in a position, maybe, hopefully, where you can choose to wait for a better option to come along. But there are many different choices that I've taken throughout my career that have led to me being here now. So what are the choices that I've had to make? Well, the first choice I made was which type of company to join. And I decided to join a British company. As you can hear, I was British. I still am. And I joined Cadbury, a chocolate company. And I made various different choices as I went through a career with them to go from one role to the next to the next. And I just chose to meet with people, to ask for opportunities, to move abroad twice, so as I would build my career and my range of experiences. I then chose to join another company called SAB Miller, South African Breweries Miller, and took a role there for 4 years, which was an adjacent industry, but also a very interesting role that was, again, made by choices. Now, yes, somebody reached me on LinkedIn and said, would you apply for this role? But I'd had to do a lot of things to get to that place where somebody would contact me for such an opportunity. And then again, I got approached on LinkedIn to join Amazon in 2016. And I've had a number of different roles at Amazon. Again, I've had to move and make choices as to whether I would move from my first job in engineering services into my current role in reliability engineering, and then into reliability and maintenance engineering. So what is reliability and maintenance engineering? Well, if you think of all the warehouses that Amazon has, and there are many thousands of them around the world, all the equipment in them, and indeed the buildings and the fire systems and themselves, all need maintenance, and they need to be reliable so that you get your packages when you order them. And that's really what we do. So we maintain a wide range of equipment, from these spiral conveyors to photovoltaic systems, and we also, in my team, which is a centralized team, create the software that our operations colleagues use to operate the equipment properly. So on this screen, you can see a snapshot of a SCADA system and an OEE, overall equipment effectiveness, and all that data and processing is done by the software, is all written by my teams. That gives you an idea of how some of the work that we do has a very tangible influence in the real world. So I do have many teams of software development engineers and scientists, and they're all trying to optimize how we do maintenance and also write the software that tells us when and how to do maintenance better and to manage the equipment in real time. So let's have a look at some of the technologies that we use. So one of the technologies we're using at the moment are smart glasses. These were famous with Google Glass a while ago. We use a different model, but the idea is the same. It's so that somebody can see information and talk without using their hands. So these are great when you need remote assistance, because you can call someone up and they can see what you see. And you can also call up instructions, and we can have augmented reality or even mixed reality applications to help us do our maintenance better. Another one here, hopefully you can see this, but we have a chatbot. I think you come across chatbots many places, but they're also particularly useful in the workplace. This one is telling you who I am, but you can ask it all sorts of questions about maintenance and spare parts and get information quickly and accurately. And then finally, we're using a lot of work on artificial vision. And this is a particular trial we're doing at the moment to detect product that isn't in packages, and so might cause a problem with our equipment. So we're doing a lot of stuff with AI, obviously, and machine learning, and two of the main applications are vision and natural language processing. The reality is that at Amazon, there are many, many opportunities for the application of scientific and technological solutions into our real world. So we have many problems such as manufacturing defects. So not everything that we have is of a consistent quality. And one thing you can do is you can use perhaps artificial vision or maybe some other solution to check that. High quality of data. One of the great things about Industry 4.0 and where we are living right now in this age of big data is there's so much data. But it's still true that garbage in is garbage out. And so we need to maintain the quality of the data that we then feed into all our science models. Doing trials is expensive. If you want to take down part of an Amazon warehouse and trial a new solution, it costs a lot of money. And in reality, it's going to be very unlikely to happen like that. But if you could do them in the virtual world, then that costs a lot less money. But again, technology is helping us do more interesting things. Another thing is feedback often comes to us in the form of text. And we work in many, many different languages around the world. And that text feedback that we get on what we're doing is in different languages. Not only that, but our technicians are so clever, they switch language halfway through the sentence. And so being able to interpret that and use that data to get interesting insights is another key development. Our assets keep breaking down, which is what keeps me in a job. But if you could predict when they're going to break down and be prescriptive about how to stop them breaking down, then that's something else we work on. And wouldn't it be great if we could process all the data from wherever it comes in the world, from whatever PLC or photo eye, in exactly the same way, and it get exactly the same result? That's a massive problem. Thankfully, we're a cloud computing company. We have multiple sources of information, and if we can combine those in the right way with the right hooks to make them all about the same asset, again, we get richer insights. Spoke a little bit about remote expertise. But the truth is, when you've got as many buildings and assets and PLCs as we have, the person that knows the answer to the problem isn't likely to be actually in that place. And so being able to call people up from all around the world to solve your problem is a huge, huge advantage. So we talked a lot about all these great solutions, but one of the bigger challenges that you'll find in a tech career at Amazon is there's probably three challenges. The first challenge is getting high quality data. The next challenge is you make your solution. And then the third challenge is getting people to adopt your solution. Because anything new, people are naturally skeptical about. And so it's about building that trust with the teams in the sites that the solution will work and provide benefits. Unfamiliar equipment, so we are always introducing new robotic solutions that need maintaining and operating. And so we can use technology, perhaps with smart glasses or other simulations, to accelerate the learning curve. One of the great things about the world, and particularly Amazon, is it's always changing, right? And the infrastructure in our buildings are always changing, and we have to capture that information. And one of the things we have right now is we can use a laser scanner to scan the building and capture those changes, put that into a 3D model, which we can then use to check for design issues. And then we can use that model to create an augmented reality or a virtual reality environment, and then even further to turn that into a digital twin to simulate maybe some of these expensive trials. Because we are operating at scale, we have quite a lot of repetitive work. And not only can that be boring and not engaging, but it can also cause repetitive strain injuries and so on. And so that's a great place for robotics to come and solve. Unknown faults, fault finding is something we can look at. Broken parts, so one of the great innovations lately has been 3D printing. And so when a part breaks, or maybe you're trying to solve for a new problem, you can easily create a sample part. We have many different software platforms. And in RME, we try and simplify to as fewer software platforms as possible and have them all communicating together. But all this extra technology, extra data, extra software tools does cause complication. And a lot of our work can be manual when we're physically repairing things, or even in the code. So wouldn't it be great if we could automatically check the quality of work and verify where things come from? Now, a lot of what we have to do is when we maintain the physical equipment, we have to lock it out and make sure it's safe, which means we need a maintenance window, which is a time when the equipment isn't shipping parcels to our customers to safely work on it and maintain it. And always the time for that is too short. But this gives us the perfect opportunity to test optimization algorithms, to optimize the work that we have to do in that time, not only to make the best of the workforce that we have and the skills that they have, but to get as much done during that window. Or we could reframe it and say, well, how long a window do we need? Or how short a window do we need? And what else can we do in a completely different way to get around those constraints? Infrequent tasks is a bit similar to unfamiliar equipment in that you don't remember what you did last time. And so isn't that great to have something like smart glasses giving you the information at that point? And finally, a lack of standardization. When you have as many different countries and many different building types, it's very hard to keep everything standardized. But again, this is something that technology can solve. So here at Amazon in RME, we have something called the TechVerse, which incorporates all these solutions I just talked to you about. So the first of all is Internet of Things, and this helps us know when equipment is going to break. So Amazon Monitron is a little wireless sensor that measures the temperature and vibration of our equipment, and then when it notices an abnormality through some machine learning, it then triggers our technician to go and fix it. And we can combine that with other things, such as current data and other anomalies, to make that right. Virtual reality is really great when you're working in a standardized environment and everything looks the same, because you can create a virtual reality and train everybody in it and subject them to different problems and see how they respond. It's not always like that, though. Cloud computing, this is something we do all the time here. There's so much data, and we find it much easier to process it in the cloud, because then we can process it in a repeatable and reliable way. So virtual reality is great when everything is standardized, but mixed reality is also really interesting, and that's when you have an augmented reality overlay and you interact with it. And that's a really interesting way of controlling and maintaining your equipment. Augmented reality is something we've already had success with training. And then artificial intelligence, particularly natural language processing. We don't use ChatGPT, but we have our own called Bedrock, as well as artificial vision for package detection, not just if it's not packaged correctly, if it's too big, or if it shouldn't be there, or if it's going wrong. We can use verification using blockchain. Cybersecurity is also very important. We're constantly patching and testing our software for vulnerabilities. Talked about those short maintenance windows, so we try and optimize what we do, but we can optimize in other places, such as we can optimize our spare parts holding. It's a massive big data problem with hundreds of thousands of different pieces of data that we then need to optimize to have the lowest possible cost with the maximum reliability. 3D printing is a great way to prototype new solutions and also make what we do more standard and repeatable. Talked about our chatbot with natural language processing and 3D laser scanning. The computer vision combined with artificial intelligence is something we're developing a lot, and I think you can see that in the general world. Wearable devices, they're not just smart glasses, there's also other types of wearables, particularly on fingers and hands, that make our work easier, but also need software written for. And what we're aiming for is a seamless transition from your mobile to your laptop, to your tablet, to your wearable, so that you're in the same place wherever you log on to your software. Robotics, it's just one little box, masses that goes on there, not just from how they physically operate and interact, but the data that they give us back in terms of faults and usage data, and then how we interpret that. Edge computing is absolutely key, because there's so much data that we can't be sending it to the cloud all the time, not only just because of the cost of doing that, but also for data privacy reasons. And that's why it's really great to be able to run everything locally. 5G is going to bring many great new opportunities for more wireless sensors, 3D modeling of our 3D laser scan, or maybe just created a 3D model from scratch to create that physical environment and see the problems before we actually build the real solution. Data analytics, it's just one little box, but there's so much that we can do here, from simple statistical process control right up to far more advanced algorithms, really saying, you know, last time this happened, or we had something similar, and combining this with all these different inputs, this is what I think you're going to need to do, this is how long it's going to take you to fix it, this is all the equipment you need, and this is how you need to be trained. So there's a lot we can do there. And finally, the digital twin. We have some digital twins, but can we get better with our digital twins, and can we predict even further problems using them? So those are some of the things that my teams are working on right now here in Amazon. Hopefully it gives you an idea as to how some of the technical solutions that we're looking for people to develop, to code, to design, to implement, will then have a real live effect on tens of thousands of people's day-to-day work all around the world. And with that, I'm going to say, are there any questions that have come in? So if there's no questions, then I'm going to hand it back.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was really great. I learned so much, so thank you. So we're going to be having a 5-minute break, and we'll be back for our roundtable. So see you in 5 minutes. welcome back. So this is our next section where we're going to be doing a roundtable with Gilda, Smith, and Cosmin. And you're going to learn a little bit more about a day in the life of what it's like to work here at Amazon. So you have submitted some questions to us, and I'm going to be asking those questions over to our presenters. I'll start with you first of all, Gilda. So for our business intelligence engineering audience, what does a typical day look like for you and your team?
Well, thank you for the question, Sajida. It's a really cool thing to be a BAE, I have to say. We have a wide breadth of job. Like, for example, we need to take the data, understand the data, profile it, and make it like readable for our end users. And when I say the end users, our business stakeholders, and also translate that into technical requirements. So, for example, making sure that a business is translated into tech means like I need to use X technology. Why are we using X technology? Choose from a wide variety of tools that we have within Amazon and then say this is the right solution for the business and translate that. It's a quite challenging job. It's lovely. By the way, it's one of the things I really like about the BAE job. But it's really rewarding when you are able to bring the business insights, bring automation, bring all of these tech solutions that you can just reimagine the whole thing for the business. So that's pretty much a pretty busy day of a BAE.
Yeah, and Gilda, I think we touched on before as well of how you have to translate some of your technical analysis to a non-tech audience. So could you talk a little bit about that and the challenges, that sometimes you have with doing that?
Sure. So it is always funny, like I can relate even to Alexa because we had some challenges around, okay, how are we going to define these metrics? What are we going to do? How do we want to measure something? And that comes the part of a statistics that the BIE has in place, right? You need to take that, understand the data, and then say, hey, this is the proper way or a very potential good way to measure how an Alexa user is going to look like. And you can do this in human resources, in finances, like a lot of things. And this is the challenging piece because then you have to say, it's not just one number, it's the number within the business that you need to explain how you're going to use it and then start calculating trends, predict. Also, like a potential forecast and all of these type of things. This is where the BIE becomes like really important because you need to be that bridge, right? So you need to understand both sides.
And in your sort of personal experience, how do you know what is the right thing to talk about? I mean, you work with lots of data. What is the right thing to talk about? How do you identify that? And there's so much, data.
Yes, having a lot of data could be overwhelming.
Yes, I'm sure.
You have faced that in the past, I'm sure. But the good thing is that being really connected with the stakeholders, with the business, and how you talk to them, go the requirements, iterate, and just meet with them to understand, okay, is this what you need? Maybe this is not what you need. Maybe we need to reshape it in a different way. So then you go back, take the data, and then move forward. That's how it's the only way. Talking, that's why I say it's a lot of a stakeholder management. You need to deal with the business and say, hey, this is exactly what you need. Maybe, yes, no, but tell me.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Gilda.
You're welcome.
So our audience, actually, we had many questions about sustainability and what is Amazon doing, to be sustainable in tech and overall. So I'm going to go over to you, Cosmin. I know you have a really great story to tell us.
Yes, I'm Cosmin and I am a part of the Amazon logistics business. And in our area, we are focusing on sustainability a lot. And by that, I mean there's a full-fledged sustainability organization that looks into the electrification of Amazon logistics and the way we deliver. And it's tied to the climate pledge we've done, which targets by 2040 to be carbon neutral across all our business. And in AMZL, I think the most critical part of getting into that climate pledge is to fully electrify the delivery vehicles we have that take the package to our last customer. My team is also involved in looking into how all of our delivery station locations that is the beginning, basically, of my business. The package arrives at the facility in Amazon, and then it takes it goes into the being delivered to the last customer. And in there, until this year, we didn't have any visibility into how the energy is being consumed. And this year, we've introduced, through Internet of Things, we've introduced the power to read into how we consume energy at a subgranular level. And with that, we will create a benchmark of how ideally we should consume it across the entire different processes of our facilities, which will drive, of course, a lot of energy savings. Back to the electric vehicles, there will be a future of very interesting, actually, analytics, because we're going to tap into all of the, battery life and how battery life decreases over time, and how weather events are impacting the battery life of vehicles, and what's the life of a EV vehicle, and that's going to become a very interesting part of our analytics. So far, we have 10,000 vehicles in the US and 3,000 EV vehicles in Europe, and we're planning to go full EV in the next few years.
Thank you for that, Cosmin. And while you were creating this analytics model to understand energy usage, was there anything that surprised you while you were going along this journey?
So yeah, we were hoping to see very similar trends in similar locations in terms of energy consumption. Like, for example, sites in Italy or in Spain that are at the same latitude, let's say, and they have similar temperatures, but then the data doesn't show you that really. And you just see the kind of the benefit that we can have from seeing this data and driving the good standards in a place that are not seen in a different place, and so on. From simple things like closing a door that doesn't need to be open, that just saves, AC being run, or AC being run 24/7 without the actual need for it, things like that.
Great, thank you for that, Cosmin. I hope this helped answer your question to the audience. Smith, I'm going to go on to yourself. So you've had quite an interesting career journey at Amazon, and people were really interested in, how do I go from, say, like a business analyst to a BIE, to a data engineer, to a data scientist? I mean, I do have a little story where I did have somebody who joined my team as an intern, as a business analyst, and quickly progressed to data scientist, actually, within a year and a half. So that was quite a brilliant journey for him, and it's possible. But I'll pass it over to Smith, who's going to tell you a bit more detail about his own journey.
Sure. Thank you for the question. And yes, I have had quite an interesting journey at Amazon. So I joined Amazon around like 4.5 years back, and I joined as a program manager, like in the transportation organization, but with a tech focus. So interestingly, like for the first, I think 4 or 5 months, I did pure ops work. I learned about the business, the transportation organization, how things are configured, how do we help to like get a package delivered to our customers, and why it's important. So it was quite interesting. I learned a lot. And then basically, like, I introduced automations and technology within my team that helped me to transition to a more DE, data engineer come business intelligence engineer role. So it was mostly business focused, but with a tech stack in mind. So I helped like translate like what I wanted to show to the business from an automation perspective, from a tech perspective, into business insights that helped our leadership to take effective decisions. And that's when like the power of automation was realized like within my team, and then it grew a lot. Like going forward, I became more tech focused. I transitioned to a more like tech focused DE role, where the day-to-day life for me was like working on ETLs, data modeling, pipelines, like infrastructures, like SD work, a bit of SD work, like CDK setups and things like that. So then, yeah, I went towards that. And now, interestingly, I'm also like transitioning towards SD role. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting. And like, fortunately, Amazon is very good at that. So there's a very like organized way if you want to transfer to like multiple roles, what is required, what is not required, what you should focus at, what is like the exact requirement for a role. And if you satisfy that, I think no one can stop you. No one has stopped me.
Yeah.
So, and everyone is quite supportive. So I can vouch for that. So if I can do it, I think anyone can do it.
That's great, Smith. So when do you find the time to do all this learning? I mean, it can't be easy, going from sort of a program manager role into data engineering, now software development engineering.
Yeah, so I think within Amazon, like the way like I've done it is I've had like structured plans along with my like manager that if I want to transition towards a particular role or particular goal, then I used to set up like goals for me, like along with my manager, and then we used to track it on a daily purpose or like weekly, monthly purpose, and then I used to analyze like how far are we towards that, and my managers have been quite supportive. So like yeah, it takes time, like you have to spend a bit of more time like towards learning, because I learned a lot of new stuffs within Amazon. So it takes a bit of more time, but I think it was worth it for me.
Yeah, it's a really great story. Thank you, Smith. And going from learning to innovation to you, Cosmin, our viewers have asked, do I have time in my role to work on innovation and innovative things?
Yeah, I think if you could let yourself absorbed by all the work around you, you probably would say no instantly. But as you grow in your career, you kind of learn how you keep the right balance between knowing how to surface what's important, what Gilda was mentioning, as well as prioritizing well what's urgent and what's not. And a good way for that is to stay truthful to the business and stay close to your leadership during, I don't know, daily business review calls, weekly business review calls, because it's a very good way of getting the pulse of the business. And after you do that, you realize that not everything is extremely urgent and important. And also while doing that, you realize what are the hot topics that might require, like, innovation, I think, is a big word and everybody's afraid of it because it just sounds like you have to be the next CEO of a big company. But in general, I think in most cases, innovation is just listening into your business and realizing where you, with your profile you have, can help. And it's really at your fingertips sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, when you were talking about battery life and how weather affects battery life, I'm like, that's pretty innovative. That's quite cool. I mean, personally, I would never have thought about that, but there's probably some innovation that you can find within your role and discover new things. So yeah, thank you for that, Cosmin. Appreciate it. I wanted to go on to our other question, and it's for yourself, Gilda. So this is why did you choose to work for Amazon? Apart from somebody reaching out to you on LinkedIn. What happened to Rachel?
Well, that's a good question,
Yeah.
actually. Why not Amazon? I think Smith and Cosmin has been sharing a lot of the experiences of why you should work at Amazon, right? So even though I started with Alexa, I've been in different businesses right now. So currently I'm Amazon Transportation Services, and you got a wide breadth of businesses that you can work with and learn from them. And at the same time, like Smith was saying, like his career has been shifting from one role to the other. I have experienced the same. I have started as a BIE, then I have also experienced being a program manager, and then I'm now a BIE manager, which is a completely different thing, of course. But there is a wide opportunity in that. And then also within Amazon, I really like the day one mentality, which is basically you learn something new every single day. There is always something new that you're going to learn, even a new person, someone is a new joiner, a new tip, a new thing, a new technology, because it's quite challenging and it's constantly changing. And that's also another beauty. You have to constantly embrace the change. And at the same time, the fact that you can do research, innovate, fail fast, but learn from it, it's quite important within Amazon. So again, why not Amazon? There's huge opportunity to grow here.
Yeah, definitely. And what kind of learnings are available for engineers? We had a question from our audience. And I think you wanted to take that over, Smith.
Okay.
I mean, you've been doing a lot of learning.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of learning.
So I can share like what I use. So at Amazon, like there are a couple of things, right? So we also work on internal tools that are specific to Amazon. We also have like the external tools that everyone uses, and there are trainings available for each and every use case that you can find anywhere. I think I have never had any chance to say that this training is not available within Amazon or like the internal network of Amazon. So as I said, when I joined Amazon in the transportation organization, like from a pure ops work, how Amazon work from a transportation organization perspective, it's amazing. And there were detailed trainings available to help you understand at each and every step of the way of why exactly each and every step is important and how are you contributing towards that. So from a business perspective, a lot of trainings are available, internal certifications are available that helps you like be at a level that is expected for your role. So that helps you judge that. Then like from a tech perspective, there is like a channel that we have like within Amazon, which is called Engineering Excellence. So that gives you like particular trainings on how we develop softwares at Amazon. So it's an extensive training by like industry experts, and it's amazing to understand how Amazon works at scale. So it gives you the feeling of like how good is it, and I was like flabbergasted by what exactly like is there and how do we do it and how easily the resources are available to you. It's not that I have to like go to multiple places. Everything is like kind of consolidated at one place, which takes you to like multiple channels for sure, but you can find it easily at one place of what exactly are you searching for.
Yes. Right. Yeah, I saw on the Engineering Excellence channel that there's some really detailed stuff about technical documentation and what have you as well. So yeah, not just learning to code, but also documenting things. Okay, well, thanks for that. We do have a message from our chat room, if one of you are able to take it. So what does a TPM do at Amazon? A typical TPM. So technical program manager, for those people who want to know what the acronym means.
I can say like what like we have a TPM within like our organization, and so like what our TPM is responsible for. So we have like I don't know numerous teams within Amazon, right? And everyone is working on some stuffs to automate something, to optimize something, bring in like new developments, new innovations that somehow might also benefit other teams or affect other teams and what they are working on. So the role of TPM within my organization is to coordinate with all the other like teams and ensure that whatever like roadmap that we have falls in line with what is expected out of like the transportation organization in general. So the role is not limited to the team itself. It's to ensure that we are developing things along with what other teams are also doing, so that we are at the same pace and not everybody is also working on the same solution. Because it's possible like I might be innovating something from a different perspective, but the other team is also might be like working on the same problem, but with a different mindset or different like perspective in mind. So the role of the TPM in my organization is to ensure that we are all at the same page and we develop things like as is expected out of the transportation organization as a whole.
Great, thank you for that. So we've done with our questions for now. Is there anything else that you'd like to add for our viewers today? If you're interested, we have lots of roles available, so apply if you like what you've heard so far. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elevate Your Career event. I have the pleasure of introducing Georgios Pashos, who's our Director of Science and Technology for Amazon Transportation Service. And he's going to be doing a very interesting tech talk for all of you. So pass it on over to you, Georgios. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sajida.
No worries.
So, thank you for the invitation. So welcome everyone to my talk. Today I'm going to talk to you about being an individual contributor in Amazon Tech, Science and Tech. So I'm very happy to be here, to be able to give you an inside look from how our company works when it comes to tech, and happy to take your questions at the end of the talk. So to start with, I'm going to be talking about how working at Amazon is as a tech contributor. And before I start, let me introduce a bit my organization. So I'm part of Amazon Transportation Services. This is the organization of Amazon that does the middle mile transportation of Amazon. So basically, our job is to take the packages from warehouses and get them to a location near a city, where the last mile of Amazon will take those packages and bring them to our customers. So we are in the middle of things. We have to be fast. Our organization consists of 6 big components, as you see in the picture here. So first of all, we have some sites which are called sort centers. These are kind of like the routers in the internet. They are able to take in packages and ship away packages, and we use them to consolidate the volume. So it's a clever operation to minimize the cost of operations. The second part is the line haul. You can see on the background the blue truck. If you have seen those blue trailers in Europe and North America, these are parts of our organization, basically, which is how we move the packages around in the middle mile. Network planning is an organization where we design the network of operations for the middle mile. Air is when we use airplanes to move really fast from remote destinations. Sea is an organization where we actually put the trucks into boats to connect to islands or take shortcuts, for example, from Germany to Sweden. And sustainability is an organization that works on decarbonizing the middle mile. So in this space, I lead a team which is called ATS Science and Tech. And we have various departments in the team. Throw in here a few: network planning, operational planning, ML Ops, software and data engineering. So network planning is where we use mathematical tools, operation research, to actually design the network of Amazon, the middle mile network of Amazon. Operational planning is closer to execution, is where we try basically to determine our resources. For example, when a truck should leave from one site A to go to a site B, at which time in the week. ML Ops is a department where we deal with a lot with machine learning, and we have developed an infrastructure to continuously improve our software that relates to things like forecasting, large language models that we use in operations. And software engineering and data engineering is where we build our automatic pipelines of data and also various applications for associates. So I have here 3 examples of these departments, the results, just to give you an impression of what my team is doing. The first one is Amazon's truck scheduler. So my team has designed and developed the scheduler we use in Amazon worldwide. And this scheduler is planning every week 250,000 truck movements, where we need to predict exactly the time that the truck has to depart from a warehouse. And it's a very critical operation, because if you depart the truck earlier, then we risk having a truck half empty, so basically transporting air, which really we don't want to do. And if we depart the truck late, then we have a problem with congesting the operations downstream. So we're bringing the packages late to the last mile, which creates a number of other problems. So it's really about being exactly correct and predicting the departure of 250,000 trucks every week. Another automation that my team is building, for example, is Miami, where basically what it is, it's basically automatic data collection for driving our network plans. Just to give you again some numbers around the challenge: 50 data sets, 285 gigabytes collected information that needs to run all these tools to design the network. And what we're working on is being able to collect this with a click of a button. So quite complex. It doesn't look so complicated, but it's very. The last part I have here is software. So my team is dealing a lot with software. And I have an example where we recently open sourced the software, which is called Saleh. And this software is there to help a company or an association to make a plan in Europe of where to place electrical vehicle chargers. So you give the tool essentially information about geographic information, about locations, as well as demand, traffic that needs to travel in Europe, and ask the tool, what is the placement I should do with these EV chargers to maximize the number of sustainable miles that I can achieve. So this is part of Amazon's strategy to speed up the decarbonization of the middle mile. Decarbonization, sorry. So, changing gear, gave you a quick intro to my team and what they're doing. Now I want to move into some perks of the job. Like I wanted to give you an inside look into what I do appreciate about being a tech contributor in Amazon Science and Tech. What are the things basically that you should look for if you want to join one of the Amazon Science and Tech teams? So my first choice is data and software. I used to work in academia for a long time. And one of the frustrations I had in academia was I was always shooting to find some data set to run my experiments. And data is very important because it helps you understand the nature of your problem. So, for example, you want to solve a linear program. It's not the same game if the input of the linear program is huge. Then suddenly you need to look for a different kind of algorithm to solve that linear problem. So one of the things you really enjoy when you join Amazon is the availability of data. Of course, we're very careful. We don't have customer data to play with, but we have all sorts of other data. So literally, my team is handling a gazillion petabytes of data, and sometimes those data are also live. So you really get the last minute of what is happening in the network, and you're asked to play something on top of that. So basically, it's a glorious space for people who want to work around data. The second thing I would say is the AWS infrastructure, which you get for free if you work for Amazon. And what I mean here is, in any company you work as a software engineer, you will end up doing things, you will end up learning things. But the benefit of working at Amazon is you learn directly the AWS software and the related infrastructure that is there, which is, I think, a usable skill for anywhere else in your career. So very interesting. Like my team folks love to learn things about AWS, so wanted to mention this here. And third point around data and software, I think one thing I learned in Amazon in the last 5 years I'm working here is the full product lifecycle. So part of the excitement of the job is that you are, in a way, customer-facing. You build things that work in real life. And that comes with a list of things you learn to do, like, for example, analysis of customer pain points, the design of architecture, the requirements, the business requirement document, the Scrum development, the minimum likelihood product launch, the tech business reviews, the roadmap planning, the keep the lights on, the feature upgrades, the productionization, the full scaling, and the multiple geographies. So you get to do all of this, which is, I think, truly exciting because you learn how you really build a system, even though you're a scientist, for example. So I didn't have the chance to learn all these things before joining Amazon. Second category of perks, science and intelligence, working with very smart people who challenge you every day. So one thing I learned the last 5 years is what you knew, you have to change it every year. Every year I get better because I have a lot of people around me who challenge me of getting better. So that's something that you won't miss if you come to Amazon. Like you get constantly challenged, which helps you become better. You develop in-house algorithmic solutions. We like to build our own solutions. We rarely buy software outside, partly because we think we can make it better. I think that's kind of an arrogant statement, but partly because the problems we have are not encountered outside Amazon. So we're really pioneers in terms of scale and problem statements. So we need pioneering solutions, and that is part of the happiness of the perks of the job. And for example, in my team, you also have a lot of experts. Like one other advantage is you sit next to 30 PhD holders on topics like the one you see in the picture. I won't read them all, but you can identify perhaps with some of them if you're working in the science or mathematical space. Last category, real-world impact. I have for you here a list of things that you get to do in my team. Affect the next day delivery experience of millions of customers, reduce kilotons of CO2 emissions from diesel trucks, prevent at the order of $100 million wastages by optimizing Amazon's network, improve employee safety and experience, change the route of millions of packages every day, affect how operations work. So someone in our team gets to experience these kind of things every day by being a software developer engineer, a business intelligence engineer, data engineer, etc. So I think, I don't know how often you get to do these things, but this is the kind of impact you can have working in an Amazon science and tech team. And I think it's pretty much the same for any Amazon science and tech team you can work. So here I will switch gear and move to the last part of my presentation. So first of all, in the picture you can see one of these boats transferring our trailers. And then I want to give you here 5 tips how to be a successful individual contributor. So I think you can use, these tips are coming from my experience working the 5 years at Amazon. And I think you can use them in 2 ways. One way is that if you decide to join the company, you can use them to be very successful. And another way is to prepare your interviews. So because you can get an idea of what's important for us. Can we manually move the slides? Okay. Don't know what happened. So we can continue. So my first tip. So I think for my first tip, I've chosen understand business, where I'm coming from. So it's a typical misconception is, I am a tech person. My job is to design the best tech solution for a stated problem. So I think one of the things you learn when you work on real-life problems is that most problems are not stated correctly, and most customers don't know how to state the problems. So you should never ask your customers, what's your problem? You should ask them, what is your pain point? So what is the thing that you want to improve? And the issue is that most customers don't know the solution to the problems, but most customers know, like all customers know, what are the pain points. So I think one advice I can give you here is to be curious and ask questions. So ask your customers what are the pain points, don't ask them what are the solutions. Can we move the slide because that thing is not working well? Cliffhanger for the second tip. Okay, now it works? No. Detecting a problem. Okay, we are back. So the second tip I have for you is basically what the recruiters will ask as well. Data, data, data. So in Amazon, we are very data focused. We make all our decisions based on data. We like arguments and mental models, but at the end of the day, we clarify the data and we decide. So the misconception you might have in this space is that you might have already collected all the data for your problem. So that's almost never true. And my advice is be the person in the room that knows the most about the data of your problem. So that if you do that, you cannot go wrong. You're always in the right place. And one fun thing about Amazon is we have these 5 whys. So one way to collect this data is to take a problem and ask 5 whys. So every time you ask a why, you go deeper into the answer of the previous why. So this is what we like to do in Amazon. So my advice is data, data, data. Third tip, typical misconception is I need to prove that I'm better than others. You rarely need to prove that. So you need to earn trust with your colleagues. You need to earn trust with your customers. You need to earn trust with your peers. So very critical leadership principle of Amazon, earn trust. So what you need to prove is that you can work with others, which is very important. I have a nice picture here. So when you come into Amazon, you should invest in building your partner network and work with your peers, work with your stakeholders, with your customers to be successful. Fourth controversial tip, take risks, fail fast, and try again. So I have, I think, 2 tips here. The first one is, the misconception, if I fail, I will lose my job. You should try to steer clear from this kind of mindset. We like people who are very ambitious and with a risk to fail. And I think I invite you to watch Jeff Bezos' quote on that. Like, you cannot be successful unless you fail big. So you should not only fail, but actually fail big. Take huge risks and fail big. And as leaders, like as a director in my organization, I really appreciate the people in my team who are able to take those risks and who are able to own controversial topics and work on them passionately. Even if, the solution is not always the best one, that can happen. But you should be rest assured that senior leaders understand what are the stretch roles and what are the easy things you're going after, so they can see this. So we have a leadership that's called ownership, and is a leadership principle that calls ownership, and is about this. It's about people who, go out of the day-to-day thing and they try to achieve more, and that's what we really like. So, and a second tip I promised here is the fail fast. So this is something we do in science and tech, and might surprise you if you're coming, for example, from a space like a university where things are slower. So we like to take risks, but we also like to fail fast and learn from it. So meaning that we want to have a first understanding if what we are doing is the right thing very quickly. We don't like projects that run for 2 years, only to learn after 2 years that was a failed project. So you should take a lot of risks, but you should engineer it in a way that you learn very quickly if the risk you're taking is taking you somewhere promising. Last tip, build fast and iterate. So misconception here is my solution is not ready yet. I need to improve it further before launching a pilot. So in reality, perfect solutions don't exist. Everything we launch has a chance to fail. Pretty much everything we launch fails, to be honest. And what we do is we launch small, we fail, we learn from it, we improve, and we make a better launch the next time. And that you shouldn't be afraid, basically, to try things. That is the tip here. You can see the airplane. Famously, we say in Amazon that we build the airplane at the same time we learn how to fly. So that's the concept here. So also things that you should resonate with, two-way doors, decisions, meaning that I can walk the door in both directions. I can take this decision path and come back from it, safe. So go back to the previous state. Invent and simplify, go for solutions that work, not the over-complexifying, not over-engineering solutions. And minimum likable product, like design, target something you can actually like and launch. Because typically when you design something, you want to design a skyscraper. It's very complicated, right? It will take years until it's built. You might want to build the first stage of the skyscraper, open it to the public, see how it goes, and then build the second. So this is the idea of minimum likely product. So this, I think, completes my talk. And I'm happy to have some questions from you. I think there are some already pre-made questions, and then maybe more questions later. Live
Perfect.
questions.
Thank you so much, Georgios. So I'll be taking over from here as a host for this tech talk. We do have some questions actually, and thank you so much for your insightful tips. I really appreciate it also from a recruitment standpoint. So for those who don't know, my name is Gio. I'm a technical recruiter here at Amazon. And I wanted to ask a couple of questions from the audience actually. The first question being, what does a day-to-day of a software development engineer look like?
Okay, thanks for the question. So I had to cheat on this because you let me know earlier, because I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the day-to-day. But I have engineers in my team, so I asked them. I think the response is like this. I think they would spend some time in the morning reading, typically. So they're reading to get updated to things like product reviews, business reviews, architectures, or general technology information about their job. So I think they devote something like 30 minutes to that in the morning. Then during the day, they have 2 stints where they do development. Like this can last from 2 to 6 hours. Like, from 4 to 6 hours. Like it's 2 to 3 hours, 2 stints, which I guess the duration depends very much on, how well deep you are into the product, onto the software you're coding versus maybe you have stuck some wall and you need some more ideas to go around in the room. And then I think they also break the 2 with some meetings. Like you definitely need some meetings in Amazon to get into touch with your customers, with your technical program managers, understand what's needed, what's next. And then in the end of the day, they do code reviews. So I think code review is the thing you can do with a dizzy mind easier than developing your own code, which are very important, of course, for Amazon to have multiple engineers having a pair of eyes looking at the same piece of code and challenging each other. So a code review is a process where you challenge your fellow peer who has developed something and tell him or her, you can improve this, you can improve that. So it's a process to increase the standards of the software. Hope this addresses partly, you really need to speak to a SD to get a better picture.
Yeah, absolutely. It captures the essence of essentially what an SD does here at Amazon. And we do have another question. Actually, the topic of sustainability was very popular among our audience. And so one of the questions that is very popular there is, how do we factor sustainability in tech? How would you answer that question? If you could provide some examples on that as well.
Thanks. That's a very deep question. So as you might know, Amazon is very passionate about sustainability. I think we have in front of us a huge challenge, especially for us in logistics, like teams like working in operations and transportation. Sustainability is a huge challenge for transportation. I think it's one of the 3 hardest businesses to decarbonize. So we have really a huge challenge ahead of us. I would like to give you the perspective, my perspective from my position, because there are many tech teams in Amazon and many teams working in sustainability. So I probably cannot capture everything, but I can tell you how this sustainability comes into my menu, let's say, as a tech leader. So for middle mile transportation, sustainability is a very big thing, as I explained before. My team is an expert on algorithms and optimizations and analytics. So we naturally focus on those areas. And some of the things we do, like, first of all, I would break it into the following things. First, we have analytic solutions, which are helpful for sustainability business teams that collaborate with us and use our tech solutions like dashboards, metrics, pipelines of data to measure things and understand how we are trending. Are we improving our sustainability? Are we saving CO2 emissions, et cetera, et cetera? There is this part. It is more like reporting of information. Then there is some work that is being done on algorithmic space. For example, we have algorithms that decide which way a package should be routed through the network. And when you do that, you can enhance this algorithm to actually consider the sustainability costs, even enhance it in a way that it consumes customers' needs and decides accordingly. Or in different cases, when you plan your network, you can design the connections of the network, and the connections of the network affect the cost, the speed, and the sustainability. So, for example, my team is working on how to introduce the component of sustainability into this kind of decision-making mechanisms in the algorithms. Another example I can give is the one I presented in the talk, Saleh, which is an open source software The way we work there is we work with universities and other organizations that have basically, they are working in the space, like for example, companies that create trucks or companies that, for example, transport or provide fuel. And we work with those companies to understand where we should strategically place our electric vehicle chargers. And by designing a software, making it open source, we're basically helping those companies to go faster in their roadmap for launching those chargers, which will help everyone, like Amazon included, but also Europe in general, to deploy infrastructure for electric vehicles. So I hope I gave you some. There's more, like there are people who work on aerodynamics in trucks, exciting stuff, but I told you a little bit my team story, let's say, what we do.
Amazing. Again, we have one more question actually regarding work-life balance.
Okay.
How does it work?
Ooh, that's a saucy question. So actually, so this is a problem, a general problem for tech teams, work-life harmony. We've been working on that a lot the last few years. So I can tell you, I can paint the picture, very dark or very white. It's none of the two, I would say. I would say there is a lot of work to be done. So there's a lot of, when you are close to operations, things are happening fast. So naturally, there comes a stress into the team, which relates to, oh, my algorithm is actually being used right now to plan 250,000 trucks. If I made a mistake, what's going to happen, right, in Amazon? So there is this kind of stress. I think you adjust to it, like you learn over time that it's fine to fail. Okay, like you burned $1 million today, fine. This happens every day. So there is no accountability to people in Amazon, so there's accountability to processes. If something fails, we go back and we say what was wrong in the mechanism that leads us to fail. So there is this stress, which I think it automatically makes work-life harmony a complex situation. I think there is, historically, we have the reputation of working too hard. It's part of what we want to do. We're moving, I think the last few years has been an intentional effort to move away from that. Our team, in particular, is the highlight team in our organization in terms of work-life harmony. So we work really hard. The way it works is that we try to empower employees to decide how they want to organize their time. So empower them. First of all, we avoid giving any signal on working late hours, weekends, etc. Sometimes you might want to work late hour because maybe you have some project with Seattle and you need to stay late, etc. You get time back for that in the next day. So I think it's very important to empower the employees to understand how to manage their work-life harmony as a manager. So this is something that percolates through the organization. We're very intentional about it. We collect feedback. I don't think it's perfect everywhere, right? We are an aggressive company in terms of objectives. We want to reinvent ourselves. You will find teams in Amazon that suffer through work-life harmony. But what I can tell you is that it's something that our leadership is aware of and is trying to improve. And we recently added to our leadership principle list a new leadership principle that targets exactly that. So I think we have made a lot of steps forward the last 5 years that I have observed. And we are empowered as leaders to protect our teams. For example, as a tech manager, I have one of the things I control is my operational planning roadmap. So I plan for the whole year. What is the work that my team will do? And over there, my VP basically allows me to manage how I do this in order to protect the work-life harmony of my employees. So it's something that you need to be intentional about. And you have pockets in the company that you deviate from it. But overall, I think the leadership is really clear about the direction and how we should improve on this. So today, I think in my team, we are in a place where I'm happy with. Like people, don't work late hours, don't work on weekends. They are empowered to say, today I'm going to go to my dentist, I'm going to block the time, I'm not working, I'm going to do this thing within the day of the work. So I'm happy to have that. So overall, my message is we are doing well, actually.
No, that's beautiful insight. Thank you so much, Georgios. I can totally relate to that. Everybody has their own sense of ownership when it comes to their own specific projects, but at the end of the day, you are empowered to say, well, actually today I've done enough. Maybe let's try again tomorrow. Tomorrow is a new day. So we're going to go through a break now. Thank you so much to our audience for staying with us for so long. So we're going to put a 1-minute break, and we'll come back with some tips from the recruitment side. So myself and my colleague Alison will come back to you, and we'll provide you more information about the interview process and how that all works with Amazon. Thank you so much again, Georges.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. So I've joined my colleague Gio for the last part of our event. So we are going to talk to you about how it feels like to live in Luxembourg, as well as giving you an overview of our recruitment process. So here today I'm with my dear colleague Gio. I'm Alison. I am a recruiter at Amazon, and I've been working here for 2 years. I've been hiring very talented tech professionals in Luxembourg and in other locations in Europe. And I'm based in Luxembourg, so I can call Luxembourg my home. It has been a couple of years now. And yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Alison. My name is Gio. I've already introduced myself in the previous section. I am a technical recruiter. I've been here in Luxembourg for 2 years now, but with Amazon for almost 3 years. I've relocated here in January 2022, and I have to say, I couldn't have done a better decision. I'm really proud to call Luxembourg my home, as I've been here for so long. And I'm very excited to be talking to you together with Alison today regarding how does it feel to be in Luxembourg, how does it feel to be Amazon Luxembourg, essentially. So Alison, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Gio. So, over the years, Luxembourg has become one of the world's most popular destinations for expats for numerous reasons. So here are a few facts about the country. So Luxembourg is a multicultural country with a very cosmopolitan population. So 48% of residents are in Luxembourg are foreign nationals. And this shows in the 3 official languages spoken in Luxembourg. So we have, of course, Luxembourgish, but we also speak German and French. And also in Luxembourg City, we also talk, it's common to talk also English because of the growing expat community living there. And Luxembourg is also the richest country in the world, thanks to the economic stability, which makes the country one of the, among the top 20 countries which offer the highest quality of living worldwide. And finally, Luxembourg is also one of Europe's smallest countries by population, with more than 660,000 residents in 2023. And as we mentioned, Luxembourg provides a very high quality of living for the residents. For children especially, Luxembourg is recognized as for the outstanding education system, which is based on the French model, which leads to an internationally recognized degree, which is called baccalaureate. And students dedicate half of their learning time to learn multiple languages, including the 3 official languages, but also other languages such as English, Italian, and also Spanish. And Luxembourg is also the first country that implemented free public transportation in 2020. And as a result, the network of buses, trams, and trains have developed over the last few years. And it is becoming easier to travel within the country. But what makes also Luxembourg an interesting destination is the location of the country at the heart of Europe, because since the country is bordered by Belgium, France, and Germany, it's very easy to travel to these countries. Tickets, especially to travel to the neighbor countries, are very cheap. So if you are interested in exploring Europe at your own pace, then Luxembourg is the perfect place for you. And also, the airport of Luxembourg is well connected to other European countries. So, for instance, Portugal, Italy, Spain, and it's also starting to open to worldwide destinations such as Dubai. And finally, as we already mentioned, Luxembourg is a very multicultural country, which means that you would encounter people from many different countries, many different cultures, and especially in Amazon, the diversity is well represented. We have many people coming from different parts of the world and working together, and we will talk about that a bit more in the next slides. So over to you, Gio.
Thank you so much, Alison. Now, providing a little bit of an overview of how Amazon has performed in Luxembourg. Essentially, we've launched, our story goes back 20 years, right? So we launched our operation in Luxembourg in 2003. Our first permanent offices in Luxembourg were actually located down in Grund and Clausen areas, which is at the foot of the city's scenic fortress. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And our first office in Kirchberg was actually launched in 2012. That office is one of the 7 buildings that is currently making up for the campus in one of the city's main business districts. And today, Amazon has more than 4,250 permanent employees in Luxembourg, making us the second employer, according to the Static, the National Statistics Agency. Employees represent more than 100 nationalities and work in a variety of roles, such as product and program management to software development and engineering. Luxembourg location is in the heart of Europe and makes it particularly well suited as a home for our European logistics and supply chain teams, as well as employees in regional and global roles. On the next slides, we can see also our impact as Amazon Luxembourg within the Luxembourg community. Over the years, Amazon hiring and investment have brought thousands of jobs and added billions of euros in economic activity to countries, communities across Europe, including Luxembourg, actually. Between 2010 and 2022, we invested more than 6.6 billion in Luxembourg, with more than 1.5 billion in 2022 alone, including infrastructure and employee compensation. In terms of community engagement, in addition to official partnership with organizations such as the Luxembourg Red Cross, we empower our employees to volunteer with local schools and community groups in line with our newest leadership principle of success and scale bring broad responsibility. We also recently partnered with the Lycée Technique de la Lanche, Michel Lucius International School, and Michel Lucius High School and Robert Schumann High School for some office visits where students could learn more about our culture and our ways of working, and as well as organize some career days where employees share information on different fields and offer practical tips for finding a job right after school, and workshop on tech topics such as AI algorithms, gamification, and coding. Finally, I think it's very important to bring up our ownership when it comes to volunteering. We just closed our Global Month of Volunteering back in September, and we are very proud to showcase also our commitment to beautification projects, for example, in Luxembourg, where our teams, a lot of our teams have gone out and helped clean the city and with their orange bright t-shirts. In terms of affinity groups, Amazon has 13. And just to mention one of the specific affinity groups here in Luxembourg, the Beck Employee Network, they have organized a football match to help refugees to integrate within the community and help them develop social interaction with locals. So that is Amazon Luxembourg today. Amazon Luxembourg in the future. Well, to conclude this part of the presentation today, I wanted to share our view of the future. There are no better words than that explain our feelings today, being 20 years in business, in such a beautiful place that is Luxembourg. I'm quoting our VP's Jorrit van der Meulen's words during our 20th anniversary. We're proud to be in Luxembourg. We're proud of the business that we have built here over the past 20 years. And we're honored to call Luxembourg our home. Yeah, that's us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gio. And moving on to the final part of our event today, we will share with you our best tips, best practices to ensure the best experience when you are applying to opportunities within Amazon. So we will first start with a CV workshop. So we are going to share with you today some tips to ensure your CV stands out when you apply to opportunities within Amazon. So as you can see, first of all, what is really important is for us to see your successes throughout your career. So make sure to show the achievements you've done in your past experiences, but also in your current job. The best way to highlight your successes is to quantify them with data, which is, we already mentioned a couple of times the importance of data within Amazon. So what does it mean for your CV is sharing key metrics you've managed to reach, sharing targets, sharing goals, and everything that makes the reader understand the impact of your success. and be concise and tailor your CV to the job description. So be sure that you provide a good insight on how your past experience and also your skills would match the job you've applied to. And put also your experiences in a chronologic order to make it easier to read, and use consistent formatting. For instance, when what we are saying here is, for instance, making sure that you use the same font throughout your CV. So if you are using a certain font for your titles, for your job titles, make sure that you use it for all of your job titles. Make sure that you are using the same structure for each of your experiences. You know, when you are sharing details in regards with your tasks. So make sure that you stay consistent, you stay structured to make it easier to read and to make your CV stand out even more. And as final comments from ourselves to make sure that you have the best CV possible, it's always worth the time and effort to tailor your CV to the role you are applying for. You will typically see a greater return on investment in comparison to drafting one CV and using this for every application. So make sure that you highlight what would be the most important for the job you are applying for. And as we already mentioned, we are a very data-driven company. So it's important for us to understand how you quantify your achievements, how you can give figures to add context to your experience. So an example that would be, for instance, to, instead of just saying, I manage the annual budget for my student society, you can say, I have experience managing budgets of certain amount of money, for instance, 50,000 pounds and more. This will give us a clear understanding of what you've done, what you've achieved, and see the impact of your work in your company. And as I already mentioned, the structure and the format is the first thing that us recruiter will see when we review your CV. So make sure you are not making our job harder by having your key information presented in a logical manner. And finally, the most important thing before submitting your CV is to have just someone reviewing it and giving you feedback. So it can be someone, close to you. It can be a colleague. It can be also a recruiter who can review and give you a second look, give you another, another vision, another perspective of your CV, and maybe they will see things that you didn't see because you were focused on making it the best CV possible. So you can never over-review your CV. So make sure that you use your network as much as possible. And now we'll move on to the recruitment process. So I will give you an overview of the standard interview process at Amazon. So everything starts when you apply to one of our opportunities. The hiring team receives your CV, and the recruiter will review and they will check whether you might be a good fit for the role. So this is a first screening. And then, depending on the role you are applying for, you will be invited to a technical assessment or a phone screen interview. And this consists of the first round when we evaluate your functional fit and also your technical skills, depending on the role you've been applying for. And if this round is successful, then you are invited to a panel interview with a few interviewers coming from the team who is hiring, or also potential future stakeholders. So this is the best opportunity for you to meet different interviewers coming from different parts of Amazon who each had their own story, and you can also, of course, ask them questions about their role, getting to know more about their challenges on a daily basis, and they will ask you questions mostly related to leadership principles. So we will have a look at that into more details in the next slides. So I will hand it over to Gio to give the best practices to prepare as much as possible for these rounds of interview.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alison. I think it's one of the tips that caught my attention in your part was actually asking for feedback, right? It's so important, I think, when you go through your CV, you think it's at its finest, but you never know what you're missing. So it's very good to reach out to your network and understand how other people can also provide you with feedback and tips on how you can make it better. So definitely reach out for help. Now, interviews and how to prepare. We jump onto this part, and I wanted to provide really a few tips on how we can make sure that we set you up for success. I think the most important part here is really to practice your responses, right? And sometimes it feels weird to kind of practice them out loud, but it's really just that. You have to make sure that you have your example, your stories on the back of your head, and making sure that you are practicing them over and over and over again. I think it's also important that you are ready for follow-up questions for a specific part of your narrative where you might be probed a little bit more. And I think it's also very important as a third tip to understand why this role and why Amazon. Most of the candidates don't know, but actually one of the main jobs that we have as a recruiter is to understand whether the role is a fit for you as well. So this is why we ask this question. Why this role? Why this company? Why Amazon? And there are a few things that we want to understand. The first thing is suitability, right? And we want to understand if you have also had a look at the job description and you feel that those would be duties, responsibilities that you would be able to match at the same time. But at the same time, we want to understand what are your goals essentially, and if you feel that Amazon might be the right place to achieve those goals, okay? When it comes to the interview process, I think at the beginning is also very important that you review your accomplishments, review your success stories. And at the end, practice the STAR method, all right? We will go into more details in the next few slides, but this is just an overview of all the suggestions that we want to make and we want to give to you. So in the last slide, we can actually see here the specific content of our interviews, essentially behavioral-based questions, okay? Interview technique, interview technique assessing candidates based on past behavior. I think there is no better indication of future performance than past performance. And that is why during our interview at Amazon, we always ask for specific examples, specific stories where people might have demonstrated leadership principle in the past. And that is why the leadership principle questions come in. And the purpose of these questions is really to understand if you have demonstrated leadership principle in the past, and if you're able to structure your story in a STAR format, in a concise and structured way. This helps the interviewers to be as objective as possible, and the type of question that you can expect really are very open-ended, but they are targeting specific situations, okay? In the next slide, we can actually understand how that works. So now, I was mentioning structured as an adjective for our story. Structured means essentially STAR method: situation, task, action, and results. In the situation piece, you would want to provide information about the specific background, why was the specific story important, what was the relevance, what was the scope of the project, what was the impact, right? So provide all the information at the very beginning to provide a little bit of context to the listener. Next, you would want to provide a little bit of information about the task, right? So the task is essentially what you were trying to achieve. What is your objective? What is your goal? And eventually, you would want to provide as much as information in the action piece, because in the action piece is really what you did, right? So your specific contribution. And here, essentially, you would want to list all the action that you've taken specifically to achieve the desired result, which is your task. So here, you would want to phrase your answers in the way as, I did this, I implemented that, I started this project, right? And note that I'm using the pronoun I and not the pronoun we. It is very important that here we utilize the pronoun I and not the pronoun Y, because from the interviewer perspective, it is going to be paramount to understand your specific individual contribution to the project. So we want to understand if you were leading the project, if we're, you know, what is exactly that you did. Eventually, in the results piece, here I refer back to Georgia's tip of data, right? And the results piece is going to be very, very important that you bring in some KPI, some data. How did you measure success? Were you successful, and how did you measure it? If you're not successful, how did you measure it? And if you were not successful, were there any lesson learned? Was there any anecdotal feedback from your peers, from your superiors that you could have taken with you and bring them onto the next occurrence and did better, right? So this is the STAR method: situation, task, action, and results. It does sound a little bit simplistic, but at the end, this is really what we are asking for, all right? And in the next slide, you can see a few examples of behavioral question here. So the first one is, tell me about a time when you took on something significant outside of your area of responsibility. Why was it important, and what was the outcome, right? So this is, to me, a typical question on ownership, right? Because we want to understand if the specific person was able to take challenges that were not necessarily within their area of responsibility, were not necessarily within their area of scope, and they were brave enough to go out there and try new things, right? Another example is, give me an example of goal you've had where you wish you had done better. What was the goal, and how could you have improved that, right? And this is really a way for you to make you reflect on your past success story, past experiences. And I think as you said, it's a good investment to dedicate a little bit of time to look back at your previous success stories. I think it's a good exercise for you to do that and see, okay, well, I actually achieved a lot of things in the past and I'm proud of it, right? On the next slide, we have some do's and don'ts. Well, at the very first of the list, be specific, okay? Use data and metrics to support your example. It is very important to us in order to understand what your specific level of contribution is. And then be concise but detailed. Normally, for a leadership principle question, we would want you to provide as much detail as possible, yes, but at the same time, we want you to be concise in doing that. Not necessarily too verbose in providing the example, but let's say keep it between a specific limit that would be help you provide all the information needed, okay? Be structured, STAR method, we talked about that. And then reference recent situation. This is normally what we would suggest. Recent is fine, but even if you provide the example from the past is also okay, as long as you feel that they would answer the question in the best appropriate way. Follow up if you need clarification. I think this is one of the most important tips. If you need clarifications, ask, okay? So if the question does not appear clear to you, you are free to ask. You're free to clarify what exactly are you looking for when asking me this question, right? You are empowered to do so. And this is also very important when it comes to the technical piece of the interview process. For a software development engineer, for example, there is a specific coding exercise that you will be asked to do with a specific interviewer. And in that specific scenario, they will be giving you an exercise, but many candidates fail in kind of understanding the main requirements at the beginning. So it's very important that you ask questions, get the full picture from the very beginning, and do not jump into coding right away. It's very important that you try to understand everything that is asked from you. If you cannot find an answer, you can also ask the interviewer, if they don't mind, to ask the following question. And last but not least, focus on your specific contribution. What to avoid? In terms of what to avoid is, as we said earlier, we're looking for something very specific. So avoid generalization, don't embellish or omit part of the story. And it's important that you provide all the information needed for the narrative. And don't rely on a single example. It's good that you bring in a bank of narratives that you feel would be relevant to the leadership principles that we have at Amazon. All right? We have on one last slide, I believe. And yeah, just to summarize the final tips. So be aware of timing. Normally, when it comes to interviews at Amazon, they are from 45 to 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour. And so the interviewers will normally want to ask around 2 to 3 leadership principle questions. And in some cases, there may also be a technical assessment as well. So be aware of timing. 60 minutes, it's what we normally envisage for interviews. And so that is why we have that suggestion earlier when it comes to be concise and be precise when it comes to the storytelling. Keep your introduction concise, relax, be yourself, very, very important. Also, when it comes to providing the narrative, if you want to take a couple of minutes to think about a specific example, you can do that. Just ask the interviewer if that is possible. So relax, be yourself, enjoy their experience, and yeah, in terms of dress code, I think we have added that question as well, but in terms of dress code, it's very informal, so you can be comfortable. All right? And I think that is it.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us. We have shared so this QR code with more roles open in Luxembourg. So you can just scan this QR code and check our opportunities, all based in Luxembourg. And if you have more questions, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. We would be happy to answer to your questions. And as a final, yeah. We do have a survey to, so if you can take a few minutes to answer to the survey so that we know if you enjoyed today's event, that would be great. We are looking forward to your feedback and we hope that you had a great time with us.
I did.
Yeah, me too. Really insightful, really inspiring. I hope it was the same for you. I hope we answered to most of your questions. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we will be happy to answer to your questions. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alison. Right.
Thanks for watching.